Good evening, everybody. What a blessing it is to be here and to have so many familiar faces, and what a perfect day for this, huh? My goodness. I have been an après-ski musician longer than most people would think. For instance, I would like to start and play you just a little clip from what happened when my grandfather showed up with a tape recorder and a ukulele.
Hi, how are you? Gee whiz, and it's been a wonderful Christmas day, 1962. Had the folks down here and everything, and gee, Donnie's got his new ukulele there. How about playing a little something with me, Donnie?
Okay.
On the first time you've ever played, huh? Okay?
Okay.
Okay, what would you like to play? 5'2"?
Okay.
Okay, or, what was the other one that you and I were playing?
Bill Bailey. Bill Bailey.
A little bit of Bill Bailey?
Okay.
In the key of C. Won't you come home, Bill Bailey? Won't you come home?
Thank you. This is that ukulele. What happened is just later that Christmas vacation, my dad and mom took me skiing. And after we were skiing, we sat in the little gravel place hut with the picnic tables having some wine and cheese. And somebody took out a guitar. And I remember saying to my dad, we should bring our ukuleles next time. Well, it didn't happen right away, but a couple years later, I was the kid at the base of the ski hill playing ukulele. Like this. Where in rural Ohio can a 9-year-old kid perform? There aren't that many venues. But then we started the ski club. We started the ski club, and every weekend we did après-ski, bringing out the banjos and the ukuleles. So this is my 61st consecutive ski season making music at the base of a hill called après-ski. I
always laughingly say, he looks good for 100, doesn't he?
Our band with Roy and Peter and Beth have a couple hundred years of us all together, combination of après-ski experience. And what makes après-ski special? What is that Colorado thing? I can tell you from my experience, it's those people singing along. It's that wonderful feeling of esprit de corps at the end of a day with maybe a glass of wine and some cheese and some friends. It's a family thing. It's not the boozy pickup bar, which, can you imagine the 9-year-old ukulele player in that place? It's a wonderful, wonderful place to make music. And here in Colorado, it's the epicenter for me. It has been for so many other folks. So I played après-ski, and then I got to the Olympic in Village in 1980. And I asked a friend of mine, Harry Chapin, who I had met a couple years earlier. And I said, I want to be an après-ski player. How can I make a living at that? And he said, you quit your day job. Unquote. So I did, and I came to Vail, and there's something very special about après, sing-alongs, having some fun, you know what I mean? Well, while that is all going on, that happens at a national level, ladies and gentlemen. There was a place called the Caribou Ranch, one of the best recording studios ever in Colorado, if not the country, for a lot of reasons. And there was a man who was there, just like the members of the Wrecking Crew in LA or the the Swampers, classic studio musicians, Joe Walsh and his right-hand man. Ladies and gentlemen, would you welcome to the stage and give a warm welcome to tonight's guest who was there, Mr. Kenny Pasarelli. Got your bass? Yeah, bring your bass up and we'll get you started.
Hi, everybody.
There we go.
Can't start without the instrument, right?
Yeah, go ahead and give her a grab. What do you say we get this started and you can tell these people all about it? You ready, Roy? Yeah. Here we go.
Okay. Let's keep it down. This is how it started. Well, I was in Canada in 1971, and I was doing studio work. I grew up in Denver. I'm like a fourth generation Colorado guy, and it was time to get out of the house. So I moved up to Vancouver. I get a call from a guitar player by the name of Tommy Bolin. Now, a lot of people don't know who Tommy Bolin is, but the people that do know, he was this virtuoso guitar player that ended up being with Deep Purple and some other bands like that. But Tommy calls me in Vancouver, and he says, hey, this guy named Joe Walsh just quit his band called the James Gang, and he's moved to Netherlands. I said, what? Okay. He's in Netherlands with his wife and baby, and he's going to start a new band. And he's looking for a bass player. And I told him about you. I said, okay. So I fly down, get in my dad's car in Denver, drive up, it's about 2 feet of snow, typical, and I meet Joe Walsh. And we start this band called Barnstorm. And as we look around the Rockies, I mean, Joe just fell in love with Colorado. And this song is a Colorado song that was recorded at Caribou Ranch. It was the first hit out of Caribou. And I'm going to do it for you right now. and he's telling us that changes it every day. He says it doesn't matter. Bases are loaded and Casey's at bat, playing it play by play. It's time to change the batter, 'cause we don't see the ladies crying 'cause the story's sad. 'Cause the Rocky Mountain way is better than the way we are. Oh yes it is. We don't see the ladies cry 'cause the story's sad. 'Cause the Rocky Mountain way is better than the way we are. See the ladies crying 'cause the story's sad. 'Cause the Rocky Mountain way is better than the way we are. Here we go. Thank you.
That's a Kenny Pasarelli song.
Thank you. Co-written with Joe. I mean, lucky to be in the right place, right time.
Oh my goodness. I have some pictures I want to show you. For instance,
Whoa. That's my Carlos Santana look, I think.
is that it? Do you remember when that was taken?
Yeah, I was 22 years old. It's
Wow.
it was a long time ago.
How about this one?
That was in Phoenix. We were having a pretty good time there, apparently. And there it is. There's the ranch. Okay, originally Caribou Ranch was one of the first Arabian horse ranch, and the Van Fleets. That's how it started. And then Jim Guercio had just finished a record with a group called Blood, Sweat, and Tears. And he's 24 years old. They had 3 hits on that record. And at the very end of the session, okay, when we have a budget, the record companies, I believe the recording was in October. The record release was going to be in December. Well, back in those days, the recording studios in New York and Los Angeles were very strict on union. The people who were operating the recording machine, you couldn't touch, as a producer, you couldn't touch the dials. You just bark out what you needed. And it so happened at the very end of the session with Blood, Sweat, and Tears, if you ever listen to the album that has Spinning Wheel on it, the very end track, they do this little bit called bum, ba-da-da-da, bum, 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 right? Well, the reason why they did that is Jim said, as a producer, says, listen, push stop, and the union engineer at the time was reading his Wall Street Journal and pressed the wrong button and erased a minute and a half of the album. Okay? So they're out of budget. Record companies, Clive Davis is just going, come on, where's the record? So Jim says, this is what we're going to do. Let's just do this. Dun, 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 dun. And back then with tape, he edited that in, and that's how it ended the record. And Jim says, I'm never going to work in a union studio again. So he goes up to Montana looking for a ranch. And again, this is 1971 now. And he finds a place, and he's with a good friend of his from Texas. And he's saying, I think I found this place. And Jim was pretty conservative. You know, he didn't really have long hair like we did. He's an executive. Okay, so anyway, he's there at this breakfast.
Go back for the reference for the long hair. Yeah.
So
I don't recall many people having long hair like that.
Yeah, well, that was a long time. Yeah. The producers are the guys making all the money.
I was
so
there.
Anyway, so Jim, one of the guys, one of the locals comes up to him and says, "Hey, I hear you're going to build a recording studio up here. Well, you know, we cut hair with a chainsaw." And right then Jim said, okay, this is the wrong place. So they fly into Stapleton, and his buddy says, you know, I had an uncle who had a ranch called Caribou. We've got about 9 hours. Let's rent a car. And they go up there. And that was the beginning. Jim saw this ranch, saw it was 60-mile radius of unions, and he knew that it was really going to be a home studio, because after Blood, Sweat, and Tears, he formed a group called Chicago. And so by this time, Chicago was really, really doing well. Jim really kind of hawks. The band wasn't involved in buying the studio. Jimmy plunked down his royalties to get the studio, and he built a home studio. That's the studio. When we got the opportunity to work there were still stalls on the main. There was dirt floors, and he built this incredible studio, really more as a home studio for his group Chicago. But then it turned into Elton John, John Lennon, Michael Jackson. I can just go on and on. There is a control room, and it was spectacular. And it was one of the thing is, when you're recording in New York or Los Angeles, you have an 8-hour day. You set up your microphones, you've got your drums, all the mics are set, and then the session's over, and then you're going to come in the next day. Well, then you have to, how do you get that sound that you have? The microphones are so important, the placement. Well, at Caribou, you could record whenever you wanted. You know, it could be 4 in the morning, or it could be, you know, you go have a great dinner. He had a 5-star chef. He had, the rooms were all somewhat, the cabins, there were 9 buildings. And the cabins were, as Ralph Lauren stole most of his Western ideas by coming up there and seeing how Jimmy said, oh, I see what you're doing here. And anyway, it was that cush of a place, and it was a comfortable place to make music, and it turned into the very first destination studio in the world. And then a lot of people copied it later in Montserrat, I think, and other places. But there's Jim. Again, but his heart, a guy from the city of Chicago, his heart was the West. He loved, we all live in such a beautiful environment, and that's where Jim's heart has always been. The ranch was sold about 11 years ago. His presence in the ranching has been up in Montana, north of Sheridan. He's got about 96,000 acres. But as he's getting older, the kids don't want to work the ranch, so he's leaving that, but he really brought a lot of artists. I think it was only Billy Joel didn't really like being up there, or it was Jay Giles. They got a little nervous being in the mountains.
You know, a lot of things have been attributed to Caribou Studio that were like the thinness of the air, or the definite way different instruments.
There was a physicist he worked on the Manhattan Project. His name was Tom Dowd, and Tom Dowd was the engineer. If you ever saw the movie Ray, the Ray Charles movie, Tom Dowd was the guy behind. He went from physicist to recording engineer, and he came up. He was up there. He became a producer. He was recording with Rod Stewart. Tonight's the Night, or I forget what he was doing up there. And he told Jim the reason why the tapes that were done, and again, we're dealing with 2-inch tape. It's not digital, it's analog. And when those tapes would go down to Los Angeles, they had a whole different feel to them and more bass. And he said it's because of the altitude. And he discovered that at 8,600 feet, that's what Caribou was, that the sound was different. There was something magic about it. And I think if you listen to there's so many hits that are still being played on the radio that were recorded at Caribou. And I attribute to the environment and also to being in Colorado, you know? Right? There it is.
How many sessions did you do at Caribou?
Well, I did 5 records with Dan Fogelberg, who was a great friend of mine. I think I'm the person who's worked up there the most. I didn't live too far away, and so it was Dan Fogelberg. I worked with Elton John. Elton John had heard the Barnstorm records, and I did the album with Rock and Roll Hoochie Coo. Poor Rick Derringer just had passed away just recent. That was done up there. And Elton John was one of these guys. That's why he was number one. And he was always looking at the back of the vinyls to see where...
Just a couple of albums that came out of that studio in that time.
So Elton came up to Caribou, and I did a Rock of the Westies, Island Girl up there, and... just a lot of other records, a lot of the Joe Walsh. I worked with Stephen Stills up there. There's many more sessions. So I was really lucky to spend the time and be able to step out at night and look at the stars in the morning, take a break and maybe go fly fishing, or in the wintertime maybe get on a snowmobile, or go to Eldora, or have a cocktail in Meadowland.
Those of us in après-ski face the same thing. Did we want to go to L.A. or New York, Chicago, or Nashville? Yeah. Or could we live this lifestyle and do it here? Something very special. Yes, sir. You mentioned Dan Fogelberg and Stephen Stills. Can we do a Dan Fogelberg song?
Of course.
How about, we think of Dan Fogelberg tune? Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Dan's Souvenir record. It's 50 years since we did the Part of the Plan, and he died too early. He was 55, got prostate cancer, unfortunately, but his music lives on. And here's one of them. This is the one that brought Elton John to Caribou Ranch, was this Dan Fogelberg song called Part of the Plan.
This is the song that made me pick up my ears and listen and think about Colorado again. You ready, gang? Ladies and gentlemen, Dan Fogelberg's Part of the Plan. I have these moments so steady and strong, feeling so holy and humble. The next thing you know, I'm all worried and weak. I feel myself starting to crumble. Where the meanings get lost and the teachers get lost, you don't know what you're gonna do next. You wait for the sun, but it never quite comes. Some kind of message comes through to you. Some kind of message comes through. Says to you, love when you can, cry when you have to, be who you must, that's a part of the plan. Await your arrival, simple survival, one day we'll all understand. One day we'll all understand. One day we'll all understand. That woman who gave me her soul, I wasn't ready to take it. Her heart was so fragile and heavy to hold, I was afraid I might break it. Where your conscience awakes and you see your mistakes, and you wish someone would buy your confessions. The days miss their mark and the nights get so dark. Some kind of message comes through to you. Some kind of message shoots through. Says to you, love when you can, cry when you have to, feel you must, it's a part of the plan. Wait your arrival, simple survival. One day we'll all understand. One day we'll all understand. One day we'll all understand. There's no Eden, no heavenly gate you're gonna make it to one day. All of the answers you seek will be found with your dream all the And now let's have absolutely. My goodness, I can remember when that song came out, and I was just so moved by it, and thought, I want to go to Colorado, be Dan Fogelberg.
Yeah. Follow.
The special thing about this next song, how many people saw the 40-Year-Old Virgin movie? You see it? This song played through the whole first part of it, and I thought, wow, where was that from? And then it's all of a sudden like, oh yeah, it's another Kenny Pasarelli song. And joining Kenny to do this is his lovely wife, Amy.
Believe me, my better half. Well, here's the story of this song. Okay, in Joe Walsh and Barnstorm were together from 1972 to 1974, and we toured extensively. And by 1974, we were in the recording studio. And I'd come up with this. Yeah. I'd come up with this riff, this bass. Came up with this bass riff, and Joe says, "Oh, that's really cool. You've got to write a song around that." And I said, "Okay." So we're in the studio, and we do a basic track, which is bass, drums, and guitar. But there was no lyrics, there was no vocal, and then there was no band. Joe broke up the band.
The record company shelved the tapes. That's what those guys do.
Well, let's fast forward from 1974 to 1981. And I'm up in the mountains. I had a house up above Lions, and the phone rings.
And there's no caller ID.
Hello? Hi, Joe. You what? You wrote lyrics to that unfinished song of mine? What's it called? A Life of Illusion. Well, that's pretty cool. And trumpets. I was a trumpet player as a kid. And he said, I said, what do you have in mind? I haven't played the trumpet in a long time. And he said, mariachi trumpets. And I said, I think I can do that. And I said, I'll tell you what. bring the tequila and I'll bring the trump.
So, mariachi trumpets, tequila. Which of those two ideas do you think was the good one?
They both were then. Here we go. This is Life of Illusion. Sometimes I can't help but thinking that I'm living a life of illusion. And oh, why can't we let it be and see through this hole in this wall of confusion? I just can't help but feeling I'm living a life of illusion. Pow! Right between the eyes. Oh, how nature loves her little surprises. And wow, it all seems so logical now. It's just one of her better surprises. Hello. And it comes without warning. Nature loves her little surprises. Continual crisis. Hey, don't you know it's a waste of a day? We're caught up in endless solutions that have no meaning, just another hunch based upon jumping conclusions. Caught up in endless solutions, backed up against a wall of confusion. Living a life of illusion. Thank you. Okay. Well, you know, it's really amazing that the way life is in terms of how you meet someone after so many years. And Amy and I met when we were both eligible for Social Security. And I come from this world of rock and roll, and Amy was a divorce lawyer for 40 years. And I was like, God.
Not something that's cool to talk about on a first date, by the way. A little awkward.
So anyway, we put a show together, and at some point, hopefully, we'll be able to do this. But tell us a little bit about this song we're going to do.
Well, you know, we're having a wonderful trip down memory lane here. You can't really go back in time, but you can think about it. And so we do, from time to time, ask ourselves that question: would you go back in time if you could? And so we've written a little song to help you ponder this, and it's called How Dumb Now?
Does that mean, like, I'm 75, and if I really thought I had it all at 21, right?
If I knew then what I know now, was I dumb then or is it now? If I could go back in time, I think my choice might be decline. I knew it all at 21. It may be youth is wasted on the young weight of the human race. Heavy and cold, all in my face. And though this world weighs on me, it's 'cause I'm old enough to see. If I knew then what I know now, would I change it then or here and now? If you could go back in time, would your choice be to decline? I knew it all at 21. It may be youth is wasted on the young. If I knew then what I know now, was I dumb then or is it now? I knew it all at 21. Do you think youth is wasted on the young? I don't know. What do you think?
Thank you. There you go.
Wow. I know youth is wasted on the young. My goodness. So, let me take a look at this next picture.
Oh, Stephen Stills.
Stephen Stills. A very young Stephen Stills, I might add.
Well, you know what brought him to Colorado was Judy Collins and skiing in Vail. Actually, he broke his leg in Vail, but he was after he recorded after CSN broke up for the first time, and he'd finished "Love the One You're With." He was living in England, and he met Judy Collins, and I think Judy's brother. I forget, David Collins was his ski instructor, but, you know, being the arrogant rock star he was, he thought, well, I'll just ski on those 215s and dress like Franz Klammer, and he broke his leg, but he ended up moving to Colorado, and I'll tell you, some of the best music, and it was a great time for him. Unfortunately, he moved to Los Angeles. Not so lucky him. But we recorded quite a few hours up at Caribou Ranch. It's a great picture. Those are some of his guitars out in the field there at Caribou.
Some of it's probably got 600 of them.
Yeah, he had quite a few.
My good. Oh, would you want to do Stephen Stills with us, or you want to grab our?
Let's get.
Come on, Peter.
Come on,
up
Peter.
here.
You play.
Ladies and gentlemen, yeah. You guys recognize this little lick? There's something happening here. What it is ain't exactly clear. There's a man with a gun over there telling me I got to beware. I think it's time we stop, children. What's that sound? Everybody look what's going down. What a field day for the heat. 1,000 people in the street singing songs, had to carry on signs. Mostly say, hooray for our side. Yeah. I think it's time we stop, children. What's that sound? Everybody look what's going down. What a field day for the heat. 1,000 people in the street singing songs and a carry-on signs. Mostly say, hooray for our side. Come on, think it's time to stop. Hey, what's that sound? Everybody look what's going down. Paranoia strikes deep into your life. It will starts when you're always afraid. Step out of line, the man come and he take you away. And we stop. Hey, what's that sound? Everybody look what's going down. Stop. Hey, what's that sound? Everybody look what's going down. Stop. Children, what's that sound? Everybody look what's going down. Yeah, we gotta stop. I have to say that my bass player, Peter, has been most gracious, saying, please take
Sure has.
anything that you want.
I've listened to him since I was 13.
You know what that means?
That's it. Means I'm old now.
You are. What about me?
So many people have come to Colorado. Stephen Stills and Dan Fogelberg, we of course did part of the plan. 50 years ago, that is the album that came out. How about this guy?
Oh, geez. Freddie King.
Freddie.
Yeah, Freddie, he was playing at Tulagi's. And,
Oh,
right?
on the hill, yes.
Okay, so Stephen, I was in the studio with Stephen. We were there recording, and someone said that Freddie was going to come up to the ranch. And Freddie was a big man. And I remember when the bus pulled up, we had to give him a little oxygen. He had two nice young women on each side of him. Anyway, he was fantastic, and he was such a sweet man. And I was really lucky to not play with him, but I got to record Sweet Home Chicago after his passing. And I'm really honored that I at least got to contribute, even though he was gone. But music lives forever, doesn't it?
Should we do a little Sweet Home Chicago for yeah? By God. Wanna sing it? No. Come on, baby. Baby, do you wanna go? Baby, do you wanna go down to that same old sweet home Chicago? 2 and 2 is 4, 4 and 4 is 8. Baby, I don't wanna be late tomorrow. Baby, do you wanna go back to that same old place? Sweet home home,
Chicago.
Oh, let's let Roy loosen up. Come on, baby. Come on, Peter, play for a minute. Oh, baby, baby, do you wanna go? Oh, baby, baby, do you wanna go back to that same old place? Sweet home, Chicago.
No.
How about this character?
Oh, wow. So, Elton John in 1974 was playing, there was a venue in Denver called McNichols, okay, right? Before it became the Ball Arena and all this other stuff. And he was playing there, and he was a pretty big star at that point. And like I said earlier, he's one of those guys who bought every single record when the new releases, and he'd look in the back of the records to see what studios were being used and what musicians were being used. That's kind of why I got the gig. And he was at McNichols, and he had a day off. I think it was after the concert, and he drove up to Caribou Ranch, and that was it. He said, okay, I'm going to do, and he did the Caribou record there. And he actually had 5 #1 hits out of Caribou. Don't Let the Sun Go Down on Me. Philadelphia Freedom was recorded up there. Island Girl. Captain Fantastic was recorded up there. So Caribou was a real important studio for Mr. Elton John. It certainly was for me too, to be able to work with him up there. And that's the band. 50 years ago. Jeez, that's pretty.
By the way, ladies and gentlemen, a special hand for Megan McGee for dredging up all these wonderful old photos.
Well, it was interesting because I got the call from. I'd left Joe Walsh to work with Stephen Stills. I get a call from Joe, and he says, "Hey, Elton John's gonna fire his band, and he's looking for a bass player." And I told him about you, and I said, "Wow, okay." So that band, it's Davy Johnson who stayed with him forever. Behind Davy was Caleb Quay with the afro, and he worked on the original Elton John, the Your Song and stuff. And then Ray Cooper, and then you've got Roger Pope with the goatee, great drummer. And that's the only 2 Americans were James Newton Howard, he's been nominated for 10 Academy Awards. And then myself. And 50 years ago, 2 Saturdays ago, we played Wembley Stadium for our first gig in front of 100,000 people. Oh, that was the first gig. Anyway, that was the new band. We did 2 years. We did Sorry Seems to Be the Hardest Word. We did Don't Go Breaking My Heart. That was the band.
Don't go breaking my heart.
Kiki D.
I couldn't if I tried.
Kenny, the very first time I ever held hands with a girl with a purpose
It's always important.
was to Elton John's Your Song.
It's a beautiful
Every time I play that song to this day, Nancy Post, wherever you are. It's a little bit funny, this feeling inside. Not one of those who can easily hide. I don't have much money, but boy, if I did, I'd buy a big house where we both could live. If I was a sculptor, and then again, no, or a man who makes potions in a traveling show. I know it's not much, but it's the best I can do. My gift is my song, and this one's for you. Sing this with us. You can tell everybody this is your song. It may be quite simple, but now that it's done, I hope you don't mind, I hope you don't mind that I put down in words how wonderful life is while you're in the world. And she has no idea, I'm sure. Yeah, I recall that. So, and I think Elton John, does everybody have a favorite Elton John song? Everybody has like favorite Beatles song, right? Favorite thing. That's what the après-ski stuff has been about, that brown-eyed girl. He said it out loud. Yeah. And yet the same spirit is what was going on at Caribou and these other
But it was
fabulous
also
artists.
going on in Vail. I mean, Dan Fogelberg, we'd come up to Vail and sit in at different, blow into town and sit in with the bands in Vail. It was a great time for us because we didn't have to worry about, we were sitting in with, we were just sitting in, and that's what that's what it was all about.
And I'm kind of curious, Kenny, as I'm sitting here with you, and how did you start as a musician? Kind of when did you pick up bass or guitar? And did you ever do any opera stuff or any kind of like club gigs down in Denver? And how did you start?
I was a trumpet player. I started playing when I was 7, and I was in a boys' organization called the Denver Junior Police Band, and we dressed up like policemen, and played every parade, sold little tickets.
Absolutely.
The only thing we didn't have was pistols, but we had, the exact copy of the Denver Policeman. So that's how I started, and I had like 9 years of classical training. And when the Beatles came along, Bach just wasn't in the program. You were not going to meet any girls playing Bach. So nobody wanted to play the bass back then. But I had all this education and just had to go from here to here, and that's how I started. I was playing club gigs underage, the 3.2 clubs like Tulagi's, and up in Greeley there was the library. It was this circuit of maybe 4 or 5 3.2 places you could play when you were 18. And so that's how I started.
Yep.
That was it.
Yep.
Cat Stevens.
Oh.
Tell us now. You toured with when he became Yosef.
Well, I got to tell you, I was such a fan of Cat Stevens, and in 2009, I got a call from his American manager, and he said that Yusuf who had converted to Islam about 25 years, had put the guitar down and was just basically a Muslim who was not going to be playing music anymore, but his son, who at this point was a teenager, picked up the guitar and said, "Dad, show me some chords." And the next thing you know, we were in the studio in California, and I did a record with him, and we also did the Jay Leno show in 2009. But he was just a very, very beautiful human being who was really just like Ringo turned 85 today, by the way.
Happy birthday, Ringo.
Yusuf was very peace love guy, and we didn't do Wild World, but we did a couple other songs. And I'm really fortunate to have spent time with him and learn a little bit more about Islam and really the positive side of Islam. Everybody knows. Everybody's got to sing this with us.
Now that I lost everything to you, you say you want to start something new, and it's breaking my heart you're leaving. Baby, you're grieving. If you're gonna leave, take good care. Hope you've got a lot of nice friends out there. Remember, there's a lot of bad, and beware. Ooh, baby, baby, it's a wild world. It's hard to get by just upon a smile. Ooh, baby, baby, it's a wild world. And I'll always remember you like a child, girl. Know I've seen a lot of what the world can do, and it's breaking my heart in two, 'cause I never wanna see you sad, girl. Don't be a bad girl. If you're gonna leave, take good care. Hope you got a lot of nice things to wear, but a lot of nice things turn bad out there. Ooh, baby, baby, it's a wild world. It's hard to get by just upon a smile. You guys do it. Go ahead. Ready? Ooh, baby, baby, it's a wild world. And I always remember you like a child.
Good job.
Just like après-ski.
Yeah, there it is.
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
Well, there are all sorts of questions that I'm coming up with right now. As a female singer, I'm wondering, was there any like female presence of Joni Mitchell or Judy Collins or Linda Ronstadt or Carly Simon? Did any female artists record at Caribou?
Joni was up there because she was dating the drummer of the LA Express. Let's see.
You don't know any Joni Mitchell songs, do you?
Oh, me no.
So, do you know what? That's a really good question. Because when we did Don't Go Breaking My Heart, we did that. Kiki D was up there, but we didn't. She didn't sing there. She might have, but no, that's a very good question. I'd have to research that.
It's interesting because I was thinking that there was cross pollination happening with the artists who were up there. And some cross-dressing too. Who knows? What's happens at the Caribou
later.
stays at the Caribou. I don't know, but I was curious about that. And also, do you have any? Is there any particular, without thinking about it, is there any particular memory that is really distilled in your mind of like this magic recording section or this magic sitting around a dinner table or from that time?
I think the recording of the first Joe Walsh record was pretty magical for us because the studio, it was all there was that the shot of the control room. Everything else was not complete, and it was just to be in an environment that was what we have here, what you all are experiencing living up here, was really, I think, a one-time thing. And I think the fact that we had a chance to record and then to step outside of that and see this wonderful state that we live in, I think that was really one of the magic moment. Even, I think Earth, Wind and Fire did Shining Star. They recorded there. And he got the inspiration from walking from the studio, Maurice White looking up and seeing the stars. So, I mean, there's all kinds of really incredible stories that were inspired by being at the ranch.
Yeah. Yeah. I was at CU and we used to go to the Neapolitan, the little Italian restaurant there in Netherlands
Right.
all the time. And that was hallowed ground to me. And as I said, for me as a musician, Dan Fogelberg in particular was incredibly just a huge musical influence on me. And
He
so
was for a
it's,
lot of girls.
you know?
I heard more
Okay.
people saying he was the male Joni Mitchell. I mean, I got through college listening to Dan Fogelberg.
Oh yeah.
So no,
Yeah.
Dan had a huge impact.
Yeah.
Yes, he did. We talked about doing a Dan Fogelberg song, another one in this show, and it's yeah. It's
I'm sorry.
no, you were there. It's a tune from the Souvenirs album called "There's a Place in the World for a Gambler," and I have sung this song at funerals and at weddings and at get-togethers, because to me, for this one, and I know you were all over this, and Joe too as well, but it has such a simple, lovely message. Please sing along with us on this one. There's a place in the world for a gambler. There's a burden only he can bear. There's a place in the world for a gambler, and he sees, oh yes he sees, and he sees, oh yes he sees. There's a song in the heart of a woman that only the truest of loves can release. There's a song in the heart of a woman, set it free, oh set it free. That's it. Set it free, oh set it free. Set it free, oh set it free. There's a light in the depth of your darkness. There's a calm in the eye of every storm. There's a light in the depth of your darkness. Let it shine. Ready? Let it shine. Oh, let it shine. 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 Let it shine. I think he's watching. In just a little bit, we're going to get some questions from the audience as well. So be thinking about what you might want to ask Kenny. I always want to know, is it who's a better kisser, Linda Ronstadt or never mind. I'm just
Wow, you put me on the spot.
Joni Mitchell.
here.
No recollection, Senator.
That's right, Senator. Caribou Ranch burned down 1984, 85, somewhere in there.
Well, the control room, there was a space heater that caused a fire. And the business had changed, though. After disco records and stuff, the suits decided that big budget records weren't going to happen. So it was time. And Jimmy had 3 kids he was raising. And it was time for the rock and roll crazies to close it down. And that's...
Does anybody here remember where this picture was taken?
Jeez.
That's a tough one. The where?
Is that in Vail?
No, that's not the Route 6.
Is that the Little Bear?
It might be Shaika's.
No, that is
New
it's
Gnu.
now a locker room. It was the
The studio in the
Oh, the
Rockies.
studio in the
Underground.
Rockies.
Brad Quayle's place.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's when Vail looked like this, ladies and gentlemen. That's when Vail actually had stop signs.
That's fun there.
Man, I'll bet.
Yes, and here, I think I got one more here.
What? Wow.
A very famous Vail picture, riding the horse. This is from the Fox Theater when you were inducted into the Hall of Fame,
Cool is that?
along with Leftover Salmon and Hot Rice. What would you change?
Nothing. No, I think what it is that the only the word in Spanish is sabor. It's just it went by. It just went by too fast. And now that I'm at my age and I think back, boy, there's some great memories. But it was kind of like full speed ahead back then. So I think the memories are in the music. That's where it's at. Isn't that what affects all of us? You hear a song and all of a sudden you're on that first date. You're slow dancing to Surfer Girl or something, right?
Isn't it the truth? Isn't it the truth? I have songs that take me to definite places, times. And as I was talking about earlier with Nancy Post singing that Elton John song, I can feel our hands going like this, and you don't know if you're going to get the intertwine or if you're going to get the never ever squeeze. Just thank you, never ever. Thank you. Okay. I do need to tell you all a quick story about how I met Kenny. My wife Deb and Amy's mother were in a singing group together called Mountain Harmony. You've seen them sing a little, yes. And Deb came to me and said, Ann asked me if her daughter's boyfriend could come in and sit in with you. And I said, Yeah, sure. Any friend of yours, welcome to come in and do a song.
And then you called me.
Not quite yet. And I said, well, what does he play? And now I got to wait for the phone call. Well, he plays guitar and bass and piano and trumpet okay. Well, what's his name? Kenny Pasarelli. And I thought, I know that name. I thought it was somebody I worked with in Denver. I'm thinking this is somebody I made some music, did a show with or somewhere in Denver. And I go to the computer. I thought I'll Google it. I type in Kenny P-A, and I think, how do you spell Pass? And the computer says, you mean Kenny Pasarelli? Like, uh-oh. So he did. He came in and sat in with the band, and we have talked about après-ski and the lovely spirit of what happens around the music up here. It's not all about selling drinks. It's about having a family experience, a sing-along, if you will, or making this beautiful music that is inspired by what we see outdoors.
It's also interesting, as Don said earlier, between the four of us, Kenny excluded, the four of us on stage, we have well over 100 years between the four of us making live, maybe closer to 2, making live music. And the difference between playing après-ski 25 or 30 years ago and now, with the advent of social media and the telephone, the iPhone, whereas before, everybody was engaged, involved, making requests, singing along. You could really pull people in. And now you're constantly fighting against everybody in a family sitting around a table like this. It's crazy. It's crazy. So I just ask you, as you move out into the world, and you get the chance to go to live music, to enjoy live music, put it away. Put it away, because your experience will be heightened 100-fold without that phone in your hand. Sorry, I don't mean to. I'll get off my soapbox now, but
No,
You were correct.
Okay, Peter, what is your one bass question?
Okay, for what it's worth. Stop. Everybody look what's going. What is it, a B flat?
Sure, Peter.
Roy and I were discussing this last night. I've been dying to ask him.
Though Stephen played it, again, that's really an iconic song by Stephen, and we played it different every single time. Stephen, again,
It's so true.
Okay, so I can do whatever I
It's-
want.
Peter, you're allowed to do whatever you
Thank
want.
you.
on that
Thank
note,
you very
okay?
much. I will.
I was listening to another song that you played on with Stephen Stills, and I thought, I wonder if the original version is and I thought, I'll try a live one, and then another live one, and I got 4 different ones of this song. All of the ladies attending the ball are requested to gaze on the faces found on the dance cards. Please then remember and don't get too close to one special one. He will take all their fancies and run. Time to change partner. We must change partners. So we change partners again. This is how most of our ladies grew up. At the country club dances, they learned how to handle the boys. Gently but firmly they learned to say no. There were 4 more young men who were waiting in the car around the door, boys. So we change partners. We must change partners. sister to gaze in the faces found on the dance card. Please then remember and don't get too close, for the dear ones get hurt and the broken hearts fall all around. Time to change partners. We must change partners. So we change partners again. Okay, in just a few seconds, just a few minutes, Megan and James, there they are going to come around with the microphone. Please remember to hold the microphone close to your mouth. If it talks like this, it doesn't look very good at all. And if you would care to ask Kenny a question, why, I think we also have some online. Yes, no? Yes, online questions as well. Ladies and gentlemen, before we go any further, though, how about a special warm round of applause for Mr. Kenny Pasarelli?
Thank you. Thank you, that's really sweet. Thank you. It's very kind. I'm gonna cry. Thank you. Thank you, Dawn. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much.
All right, so Kenny, what are you listening to now?
Well, you know what? I listen to everything. I mean, I have a 26-year-old daughter.
So do I.
Who keeps me.
God help you.
Who keeps me informed with lots of music I normally wouldn't listen to, but I listen to everything. I'll tell you what I really like is I've been listening to Mose Ellison.
Oh, gosh,
oh man,
yeah.
Mose Ellison. I mean, and then I'll turn around. Yeah, there it is. Everything's gonna be all right. Parchment Farm, all that stuff. But I've always, I'll go to country music and I'll go to reggae. It's just music in general. Whatever's gonna make me happy. You wake up that maybe feeling kind of odd, especially when you get to be my age, and then you turn on that song, and next thing you know, you're smiling and going, "Okay, let's get on with the day here." So I listen to everything. I really do.
Do you still play your trumpet?
I haven't in a while. I could though, but for about a half an hour.
I'm
It's
happy.
one of those things.
I'm happy to tell you that my first instrument was a trumpet.
What kind did you have? Did you have a Selmer or a Bach?
I had a good Bach.
There you go.
My mom and dad actually threw down for that. I still got it.
Do you want to sell it?
No, it's better.
No, they're really hard to find.
Yeah, it's a
Really
good instrument.
All right.
Yep.
All right. So, look at this. We've got questions already. We'll come around to you. The microphone will be on.
Kenny, who would you say was your favorite artist or band to perform with? And then who was your favorite artist or band to party with?
Oh, wow.
And why?
Okay, let's start with my favorite artist. And everybody says, God, you worked with Elton John, you worked with Stephen Stills. Dan Fogelberg was the ultimate artist. First of all, he was a poet. He was a excellent guitar player, excellent pianist, excellent singer, and he also was an engineer. He knew when he bought his place up near Pagosa Springs, he had a studio that he could engineer. And so, as a complete artist, I'd have to say Elton John. Elton John. I'd have to say Dan Fogelberg as a complete artist. To party with, Joe Walsh. I can't believe this guy's still.
Even the Eagles would have agreed with you on that one.
No, I think Don Henley, when they decided to work with Joe, they were a little worried about, what.
Yeah.
But survival. Joe's let's just say that it's amazing that he is, and he's happy to be sober. And there's a lot of stories that go with Mr. Walsh to party with. Yeah,
I know that his Maserati does 195.
not anymore. Go ahead.
I'm going to piggyback off of his question. Who is the most difficult to work with? And what was it like working with Michael Jackson? Because you didn't play any of his songs.
No, you know what? With Michael, it was more like being around him. He was up at Caribou, and when I was on the road with Elton, we the Jackson 5 came to one of our gigs, and Michael was super shy. It's just, he hadn't done any solo work yet, and actually Tito, who always would get the kind of the Fredo of the Jackson, was the guys were really nice guys. But I didn't get to work with Michael, but I spent a little time with him. But the most difficult, I'd have to say, might have been Stephen Stills. Could be pretty difficult. He's one of those guys that would say, well, I want the bass part like this, and he'd grab the bass and say, this is the way I want to do it. He was a bit difficult, but I learned so much from him. He was more of a mentor for me. I allowed the guy Lee Sklar, he played with James Taylor, and that was a woman who worked up at Caribou, was Carole King.
Oh, okay.
Carole King did a record. She
Oh,
had a
yay.
band called Navarro at that time. She was living in Boulder. So I'm glad, just brain started to work there. We'll see how it bubbles up. But I think Stephen
Represent. Yes.
I tell you, Elton John, he was not difficult at all. He was incredible. With Elton as a bass player, I would stand by his left hand as he played the piano, because that would be the bass part. And I'd memorize, and he was one of those guys that said, okay, once I learned it, just do your thing. For someone who's so famous and so everybody knows he was very easy to work with. So I think Stephen was a little bit ornery at the time.
This is really good. I wanted to ask you, did the altitude at Caribou Ranch create any issues for any of the artists' vocals?
It really did. That's a real good question. There was only a few singers who could actually they wouldn't do their final vocal up there. They would maybe do a scratch vocal. Elton didn't do any final vocals. I think actually he may have done Don't Let the Sun Go, but a majority of singers would do the tracks at Caribou and do their lead vocals on sea level, go to Los Angeles. But one guy that did really well up there was Rod Stewart. He did Tonight's the Night there. He sang, and also Peter Cetera of Chicago didn't have a problem singing. He got an extra note and a half, if you can believe it. So that's a good question. The rest of the singers it was a tough time, 8,600 feet.
And dry.
Look at you. You guys sing really well.
And when we do like a cruise ship, it's like we have a third lung.
It's true. It is
high
totally
altitude training.
true.
You've got that humidity, and all of a sudden, instead of going, oh, please let the snow come out, trying to work up enough saliva in your system to care. And the thing about Colorado is, if you dry out, you're not getting it back until you get something to drink. Yeah, it's true.
Here you go.
Well, thank you, Kenny, for sharing all these great memories of the 70s that so many of us grew up in.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you.
Totally.
Good, I could feel it.
So, in your opinion, in the 70s, not the age, but the year, when all these songs came out, what do you feel made some of these greatest iconic songs better? Great lyrics or the great melodies? What do you feel really was most important?
That's a very good question, especially because Amy's my lyricist, and words are so important. I'll tell you what, it was a combination. It's the marriage of melody and lyric. But that time period, there was 24 tracks. There wasn't hundreds of tracks. Digital, you could do now. Everything is called out of the box. You're in the computer. You can go. Matter of fact, here's a really great example. I have a friend who's the #1 session player, Tommy Bukovac in Nashville, and he's real frustrated because with the computer and editing, you can play. He'll go in and he'll play a solo, and the producer, Tommy will say, "I can do that better," and the producer will go, "No, we've got it." And what happens is with the computer, with the editing, with Pro Tools and all these things, they can just edit everything. Back in those days when we were making the record, we did not have that technology. Yes. So it was real human beings playing real instruments, no tuners. There was no, if you were singing out of tune, stop the tape, you're singing out of tune. There was no way of fixing it. So that's why I think the music of that time, there was a performance that projected onto the tape, and the spirit was there. It wasn't erased by perfection.
You and I were laughing earlier today about how much time we spent in rewind. You know, you would do a cut, and, well, let's listen. Okay. Okay, roll it.
Yeah.
Oh, Ren. Oh, never.
There was no way of...
No way around it.
There was no way
you
around
had to
it.
sit
You had
there
to
and wait
listen
till
to
that
it.
rewound. And
It was tape. It was tape. And so that's a great question. And it really is, it's lyric performance, but the performance was limited in the sense that you couldn't do it 100 times. I mean, you could do takes, but it had to, there was no tuners.
But I also, for me, like pitch correct, I don't like pitch correct in contemporary music because in some of the older music, I mean, if there's a voice crack that happens, that it's at a really emotional moment,
Karen Carpenter.
It doesn't ruin it for me. It heightens it because you really feel the performance. And so, yeah, I think a lot for me, a lot is lost when you get into pitch correct and making everything
Well, it's
perfect,
also,
perfect,
too,
perfect.
with the computer, when you're recording now, there's a grid, and you see, and everything lines up to the grid. Well, where's the heartbeat? Where's that moment of stumble that creates? You're saying that space. And that, so the music that came from the 70s was limited. You go back even further. Duke Ellington comes in off the road, 300 miles, it's 4 o'clock in the morning. Frank Sinatra's going to sing with them. They have one rehearsal, and then tape goes, and that's it. And that was the difference. It was really well practiced,
Yeah. If I could add one more thing to that equation about lyrics and melody, I would add the third line of the audience, the listener, and how that relates to that there are certain lyrics and tunes that still resonate today because they were so at the right time for an audience.
That's a hard one. Right, honey, we know about that. I think the lyrics are, I think writing correct lyric is, I mean, melody, but lyrics I think are one of the hardest things to write. I mean, that's the experience that I've had. And fortunately, I have a lawyer who's my lyricist. No, a wordsmith, and it's really hard to do that.
Lyrics are the easy thing to write, so it depends on what your orientation is, right? Lyrics just, Kenny's music speaks the lyrics anyway. You don't really need to do anything other than listen and make something out.
Thanks, honey.
I have a question.
What? The cats will be fed when I get home. Okay. Go ahead.
I'm just curious, as a bass guitar player, is the 4-string or the 5-string bass guitar the preference of most rock bass players?
I'm a 4-string guy.
I saw that.
Yeah,
and he's got 5, so that's why I'm asking.
You know what? The 5-string has become popular for many reasons because you've got this low, deep.
Rumble.
You can rumble.
Some air around. It's like an exclamation point at the end of a well-written sentence.
It's true, but I can't even hold a 5-string bass. I'm a 4-string guy all the way. But there, and it's interesting. I did some work, a little bit of work with Kenny Loggins a couple of years ago, and when he sent me the tapes to learn the songs, I was going, wait a minute, this guy's playing a 5-string bass, and it changes the harmonics in terms of singing harmonies to it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So that's a really good question, but I'm a 4-string guy.
But I have a comment for that. Many times, especially here at altitude, a lot of our colleagues will go down a half a step to sing a song. If a song were in the key of A, for example, they would go to A flat because it's easier to get those high notes out. So with a 5-string bass, you don't have to detune because you have more access, more notes that you can just play them instead of screwing around and which has been a great advantage.
You play an E flat.
You can play a low C or a low B.
That's the one.
That's all.
That's a good question.
We're back here.
There we are.
Tony?
I had to write these down because I've had a bourbon, so I'm a little. How about? Thank you for throwing the spotlight on Dan Fogelberg, by the way. That was excellent. Question about Fogelberg, Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. What do you think?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, they're working really hard to do this. His manager, the titan of the music business, Irving Azoff, is working hard at this. It was Irving's idea to do the 50-year anniversary of Souvenirs, and I hope at some point that Dan gets the recognition he deserves on that level, because you know, it's weird. The business is so strange that when I was working, we did Innocent Age in 1981. He had 4 top singles off a double album, and then about 3 years later, things changed. You know, it's a fickle business, and all of a sudden, you know, he still could sell out Red Rocks by himself, but the music industry changed. And MTV. Yeah, we did actually we did Language of Love. I don't know if you ever saw that. I looked like I was the Karate Kid in that. But anyway, that's a really good question. You know, and I hope that happens. I think it will, actually.
I noticed that I believe one Colorado artist that never performed at Caribou or recorded was John Denver. Is there a reason for that?
I don't know. Amy did his divorce. Let's ask Amy.
Which one?
Second one. No, you know, John visited. I know that he was up at Caribou, but that's, you know what? It's that John McEwen's brother had a studio in Aspen. So I think that was part of it. That was easier for him to be at home and record up in Aspen. But I know he did visit.
I have one more.
Okay.
Then I'm going to go home. Okay. Great, by the way, great show. Really enjoyed this. Fantastic. And it was amazing. Peter was actually in tune tonight. Thank you, Peter.
Shucks. Thanks, Tom.
How about Kenny? How about Joe Walsh and the Eagles? How did that happen? How did that come about?
Well, I'll tell you, Joe Walsh and Barnstorm in 1972, 73, we toured with the Eagles. We were, you know, they were going through a bunch of changes. They'd released the Desperado album, and it somewhat failed, and they were having a rough time. And we were managed by Irving Azoff, who managed the Eagles at the same time. And Glenn Frey, a lot of people don't realize, Glenn Frey, Mr. Take It Easy, was from Detroit. You know, he was a kind of a rocker, right? And he liked Barnstorm. He liked the edge that Joe was bringing to it. So what we were doing. So I think in many ways he wanted that with the Eagles. They wanted to add a little bit more edge to their sound. So Don Felder is one of the greatest guitarists. But boy, once they got Joe, in Life in the Fast Lane, that lick, when we were in Barnstorm, that was a warm-up lick with Joe. We'd be at sound check, and he'd play this lick over and over. and that became life in the fast lane. So anyway, Joe brought an edge to the Eagles, which is something that Glenn really wanted.
Certainly did.
Yeah.
In December, we saw the band America in Denver, and they mentioned Caribou Ranch. Did you ever work with the group America?
Jerry Beckley is an old friend of mine, and America came to. First of all, they were produced by George Martin, the Beatles producer, and they came up to Caribou, and then Jerry and I became really good friends. Matter of fact, I had a chance through Jerry, and these guys, America, they were young guys. When they had Horse with No Name, these guys were in their early 20s. And they all met in England because I think their fathers were all in the military. And that's how they connected with George Martin, and then they came to Caribou, and Jerry was good friends with the Beach Boys. And I had a chance with, Jerry called me, I was working with Elton at the time, and he says, "Hey, do you want to meet Brian Wilson?" And I said, "Yeah." So he said, "Well, and David Cassidy had been up to Caribou, so it was David Cassidy, Jerry Beckley, and we went over to see Brian, and we sat and we sang harmonies of Beach Boys songs with Brian Wilson. That was Jerry Beckley who put that together. So I didn't get a chance to work with America. We're still friends. We spoke not too long ago, and but they were at Caribou and with George Martin. So yeah, it's a good band.
God only knows what I'd be without you. God only knows that.
Go ahead.
This is sort of a subjective question, but we know that Bach, Beethoven, and Brahms their music has all thrived 200, 300, 400 years. Who, if you had to single out someone, do you think that music will be alive 300 years from now? I know it's a strange question, but if whose music will live that long?
I think we just did it right there. I think of Brian Wilson's song. Yeah. When you look, I think I said this in a 5280 interviewed me years ago, and I said, you know what? They said, well, what's new out there? I said, well, you find me another Brian Wilson. Somebody who can really connect and engage with people, with the generation, being able to do what he did.
The audience part of that.
The audience part of it, being able to really connect with how we're living at the times. I mean, Good Vibrations. I mean, all those songs. That's a guy I think that's right up there with the masters. So I think his music, that'll live forever. And then you've got your Eltons too. I mean, there's a few people that are in that category of music that will live many generations.
Had a connection with Garcio and the Caribou Ranch, and you asked about female performers, and Tanya Tucker left her mark up there. At least
that's right. I forgot about
with
that.
the Cowboys.
Yeah. Tanya,
Wait a minute. You forgot about Tanya Tucker?
I forgot about that. She was up there with Glenn Campbell at the time. She was hanging out with Glenn Campbell. Boy, she's made an amazing comeback in the last couple of years. It's a real pressure to make it young. To be, especially like with my 26-year-old daughter, who really has a fine voice. But she says, Dad, why don't you help me out? I said, you know what? It's a very difficult business, and it's a very difficult business for women. It's a tough one. And I said, if this is the only thing you can do, okay, but it's hard, isn't it? But as a young woman, Tanya, I mean, at 14, 15, having hits like that, and then the pressure of continuing to have hits, and then the pressure of all the attention. It's a tough one. It's a real tough one.
Hello.
There we go.
Yes, I appreciate so much what you are doing here tonight. I moved here in 1969.
Wow.
And being on the Vail Ski Patrol, one of our friends who frequently came up and had lunch with us was a girl who was pretty good at music then. Her name was Judy Collins. And her brother Dave was teaching
Collins.
skiing in the
There you
ski
go.
school. But it was such a special time for us. And I had seen Joan Baez when I was growing up. No, Judy was better. Anyway, but I thank you so much. This is rock and roll history, which was part of Vail in the 1960s, 70s, early 80s. So thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Great
That's great.
group.
Thank you.
Here, here.
Quick question for you. We always talk about the music, but there are the people behind the music and that I'm curious about, quite frankly, like Jim Guercio. And you look at Guercio, Chad and Jeremy, the Buckinghams, Blood, Sweat, and Tears, and Chicago. But he brought so much more to what music was at that point in time. How do you get into that side of the business?
Well, Jim fell in love with the West. Okay, so here's a guy who was a musician, and like I had mentioned earlier, he wanted to find an environment that was more conducive to creativity, and by creating the ranch and his love of the West, I mean, he kind of walked away from the music business and got involved more into cattle ranching and just the whole lifestyle of the West. And I think that Jimmy and brought Colorado to the world industry. I think he saw what could be done here. He saw how beautiful an environment that we all live in, and I think he was really one of the only ones who really created the environment. I mean, there's studios in Denver and there's studios in Boulder, but to create this environment, it's like if we're right here at Four Eagle and we went into the barn and there was drums set up and there was microphones. That's what it was. Let's do it. So anyway, yes, Jim was responsible for that, and I think he inspired other people to do the same thing in other environments. George Martin, after he came with America, then went to Montserrat, and then Compass Point down another in Florida, and then the Honky Chateau outside of Paris. So Destination Studios really started in this state, Caribou Ranch. You were there.
I saw a movie a few years ago about the Wrecking Crew, and I was kind of shocked that some of my childhood stars, rock stars, really had a hard time playing instruments, and that when they went to make records, they had Carol Kane and all these stars of the Wrecking Crew actually playing the music, and they even had the Beach Boys were on tour, and Brian Wilson was doing Pet Sounds with the Wrecking Crew. Did you ever have musicians come to the Caribou that you thought maybe they need a Wrecking Crew?
You know, the coming to Caribou was usually they were bands.
Yeah, it wasn't cheap.
Yeah, there weren't musicians. It wasn't like you were in LA where you call in and say, we need a guitar player, like the Wrecking Crew. Let's say we need James Burton or somebody, or you're in Nashville and somebody throws the amp in the car and comes up. No, they were self-contained. So when the groups would come up to, if somebody needed somebody, maybe they'd fly them in. But Caribou, that was another thing, it was self-contained. People were there as a group. So in other words, they were hanging out at the mess hall, like we were talking about, the mess hall. And I mean, when John Lennon came up to work with Elton, he was down in Boulder buying cowboy boots and McGuckins, you know. So that was the environment that was created. It was comfortable. There wasn't a lot of pressure. Michael Jackson was wearing a fat suit and going down, and he was a Jehovah's Witness at the time. Nobody even knew who he was. Elton John, we'd stop at I think it was it wasn't even an Arby's. you know, there was a relaxed atmosphere. There wasn't that thing that now is even more pressure with people, with the telephones, the whole thing. You walk out and you're in your, it was different. And I think that environment really created less pressure and more relaxed, more creative.
What is your favorite, what band would you like to play with that you haven't?
The Rolling Stones.
That's a bet.
I've hung out with them a little bit, but that would have been fun. That's a very good question.
All right, well, that kid just kind of stole my question.
Oh, the power of youth.
Was there an opportunity that you turned down that you said you would not change anything, but is there an opportunity that you missed that you had wished you had capitalized on? And my wife wants to know how Elton John was as a kisser instead of Linda Ronstadt.
No, I always say I worked with Elton John. I didn't play with him. Okay. The opportunity that didn't happen for me was I met Stephen Stills up at Gold Hill when I was 19. I was playing in a bar band in Denver, and I was at a music store, and it was called Happy Logan's on 17th in Denver, and it was always kind of a musician's hangout. You go and look at the stuff you can't afford, Logan, he said to me, he said, do you know who Steve Stills is? And I said, well, yeah, Buffalo Springfield, and he just really super session well. He says he'd been dating Judy Collins, and he's going to be up in Gold Hill, and this is 1969, and he says he's looking for a bass player, and I told him about you. Okay, so I went, got my friend to drive me up to Gold Hill, and it was like the picture of CSN. The door opens, we knock on the door. He's a friend of his, was a weatherman or something up there in Gold Hill, and out front, this typical rock star back then. There was a '69 Bentley pulling a motocross bike. But the door opens, and there's Stephen with his button-down shirt and his sweater and those hiking boots, and he says, yeah, I heard about you, and he says, I want you to listen to this. And tiny little stereo, and he plays the acetate, which is, an acetate is the first pressing a producer gets, and it can all be played maybe about 20 times, and then the producer goes, okay, more highs, more lows. He puts on the acetate of Crosby, Stills, and Nash, CSN, and I hear do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do. And I went, oh man, and this is incredible. I've never heard anything like this. And we played, and he says, listen, I think you can do this. We're going to do, our manager's David Geffen, and we're apparently going to do our first gig at a place called Woodstock or something. He says, I don't know anything about it. It says Woodstock, and I said, wow, okay. Well, I unfortunately, I got ill. I got infectious hepatitis. I wasn't like doing anything that bad. I was just being a hippie, and so that was the one that passed me by. I didn't get to go to Woodstock, and it was probably good because I was a little bit too young for that. So that's a good question. Ended up working with them later, though. One more?
How did life on the road shape you, not just as a musician, but as a man? And did you feel like that constant movement kind of continued to inspire you, or did you long for stillness and kind of like quiet moments?
Well, it becomes, look at Willie Nelson and Dylan. They can't get off the road. It becomes the adulation of the crowd, the ability to be able to play music and get the response like what I'm experiencing tonight it's a real addiction.
It's a true addiction.
The hardest part about it is not being able to stay still long enough to write. You know, that's the hard part. I mean, you're on the road, you've had a hit, but you've got to promote that record. And where do you find the time to write the next album? So that's the tough time. And in terms of, well, there's a lot of bad behavior that went on back then. So, but at the same time, there was nothing like the joy of connecting, and that's the thing that you just want to keep doing it. You want to make people happy. So you share in that, and that's what keeps you going. But the hard part is being able to find the time to write the next record. Somebody back there?
We're at time, but you'll have a chance to ask them questions. But before we take a break, ladies and gentlemen, please thank this incredible group of musicians.
Thank you.
Kenny Pasarelli and Amy, Peter, Beth, Roy, Don.
Thank you.
Come on. When you're down and confused and you don't remember who you're talking to, concentration slips away, 'cause baby, so far away, yeah. And there's a rose in a fisted glove, and the eagle flies with the dove. And if you can't be the one you love, honey, love the one you're with.
Don't be angry, don't be sad, don't sit crying over good times you had. 'Cause there's a boy right next to you, and he's just waiting for something to do.
And there's a rose in a fisted glove, and the eagle flies with the dove. And if you can't be the one you love, honey, love the one you're with. Love the one you're with. Do 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 do. Turn your heartache right into joy. She's a girl, you're a boy. Get it together, make it nice. Never need any more advice. And there's a rose in a fisted glove, and the eagle flies with the dove. If you can't be the one you love, honey, love the one you're with. Love the one you're with. Ladies and gentlemen, the great Kenny Pasarelli. Do 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 do.